Well, welcome back and good afternoon and all those obligatory greetings. I was here a year ago. We talked about BPM and SOA and how it actually relates. And it seemed to resonate with a number of folks. So now we're going to talk about what happened a year later, right? So we've done a lot of SOA development. It's being deployed throughout the business units at various paces, right? So there's not one uniform program across the company, but we are able to measure now and take a look at process management as a core capability, and then we're also starting to link that to how the services architectures are being derived. Now, we still have a lot of the IT when we talk about SOA and what it can or can't do. IT generally takes the front seat. We talk about putting things up on a website and all these kinds of nifty things. But the business is starting to realize that I really can't do anything with SOA or services. And again, we try to get the business to think in terms of services, not technology, right? So we try to move off the conversation around technology, and we want to move on to services. And in that context of a service, we also have to realize that the business really delivers value through services. So we talked about financial services. AIG predominantly, as you know, is in insurance. They also have financial services as well. But again, the value of an insurance product, if you will, or the value of a financial product is not just necessarily the product. It's the services that deliver the value, right? And so what's more important today is that we actually get a very good understanding of the services that are in the background. And when we talk about SOA, really it's an enablement to actually allow the business to really, like we said earlier, build flexibility into the enterprise, build flexibility into the business model. That's what SOA does. It's not the answer. It's really an enabler. But the business process management is the thing that allows us to analyze what we do, and then how do we do it better. So we're going to cover a few things today. Introduction, 1 year later, blah, blah, blah. You can see that. What happened this week on Tuesday? Anybody? A very critical day on Tuesday. AIG got to ring the bell on the New York Stock Exchange. Huh? Very exciting. And to be honest with you, since I've been there for 4 years and saw the stock price drop down to 52 cents, it's kind of important now that we're able to step back into the marketplace. And the only reason I bring that up, we rang the bell, is we've made some commitments now to the market, right? So before we said, Bob Benmosche, the CEO, has made a comment, right? Now we have to be a real company, right? So with the bailout, we had certain protections and governance things, and now that we pretty much have bought out the government and they're kind of like, they're going to be out of the picture, we now have to refocus and be really a market contender, a competitor. We have to have a very aggressive stock price. And so we got to do all the things that regular companies do, but we have to do them faster, right? So we talk about the large shared services approach. So the other thing that we know that AIG used to be let's say a nation of warring factions, right? So we all belonged to a company, but we all didn't agree, right? We just, as long as we made money and we worked, okay, well that was fine. But now we have to figure out how to actually operate as a unified company around the world. And so what that has really started to do is, I don't need to have actuarial services in every country in the world, 131 countries. I don't need to have product manufacturing in 131 countries. I don't need to have contact centers in every country. And since the last time we talked, we did a study, we have 259 contact centers around the world. So somewhere between 1 and 259 is probably the right number. But again, I can't do anything with that number until I start to figure out how am I going to deal with my customers around the world. We talk about reinvigorating the customer experience, and that's exactly true. So for the last 4 years, we've had a lot of challenges, not just with the broker community or the distribution channel, if you will, but the customers were kind of like, well, what is actually going on? So we now have to go back in and reinvigorate what the customer experience is. And again, now SOA starts to play even a more important role because if you think about a services architecture, and we talk about something like authentication. So if I have a broker who does business with us in the States and in Canada and then in Europe, we only need to authenticate them once across the entire enterprise. So I need one service that allows me to actually do that. So what's becoming more important now is process will drive what services we need to offer. SOA allows us to figure out how to architect the services so they can actually be reused in an enterprise model, okay? We talk about BPM and leveraging that. We're using that as a capability. So BPM is not the answer, right? And there's a lot of vendors on the floor here. They have a tool. They'll sell you something, I'm sure. But it's about getting everybody in the organization to actually understand what those 3 letters actually mean. And more importantly, it's not just what the 3 letters stand for, but at the end of the day, they understand how to apply that technique to what they do on a day in and day out basis, right? So I have, in the current role that